So we call ourselves the 70s through 90s revival band as of, I don't know, noon today maybe. We just kind of thought this up because everything we're doing is from the 70s through the 90s, which makes a lot of sense, I guess. The last chart we're going to do, which I won't talk before, is really a cool tune. Mr. Gaspar, who's a regular sub here, awesome trumpet player, did that arrangement. And Hugh Masekela, whose name you will see as the composer, wrote that piece in the early 90s as part of the anti-apartheid movement in South Africa, in conjunction with Nelson Mandela and Paul Simon's Graceland album. And so that's the historic connection to that in the 90s. And so Grazing in the Grass is just about that whole situation in South Africa. So we're going to end the show with that one. In a minute, I won't talk between the next two charts. Enjoy this Chicago chart. The last one obviously featured Braden on the great Baker Street chart. And this is going to feature Evan and Connor and our two tenors, Dice and Jude, and anyone else that's solo guys. And parents, if anyone has a camera that's a really nice camera or something, you're welcome to come right up here and get a picture of this, because this is really cool to look at. So if anyone wants to come up with their phone and get a picture on this side, I'm more than fine. I'd love to have that. So here we go. Does anybody really know what time it is?